Cam Robinson is the director of content and film study for the film scouting for Elite Prospects. He joins us on Tuesdays. How are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. Better than the Vancouver Canucks, Cam. And we'll start there. When you think back to what went wrong this season, what comes to mind?
Oh boy, how long is this show going to run today?
Long list.
Yeah.
Edit for me. Tell me, where did this season go wrong?
Cam's notes.
Yeah, there you go. The Cam's notes. Excuse me. Injuries played a big part, obviously. I mean, Thatcher Demko going down, even though Lankinen was a bright spot, for long stretches of the season. I think that played a big role. Obviously, Pettersson battling whatever injuries or, headspace stuff, massive. The defense core, it was built out at the end of the season here, but, for a large chunk of that season, especially the bottom four, really struggled. Depth scoring fell off, an inability to generate rush chances, dressing room drama. I mean, we could go on and on. There was so many things that kind of spiraled out of control with this team this year.
If Elias Pettersson has played his last game this season, where are you on him going into the summer, and what do you think they should do with him?
I hope it is his last, that he's done for the season. Just let him recover or whatever and take that time and refocus and regroup for next year. I do think that they'll probably listen at the draft before that no move kicks in. I don't expect he's going to get traded, though, to be honest with you. And we'll see if that changes as the weeks and months go by here. But I think you bet so big on this player, and that and I've said it so many times, I refuse to believe that at 26 years old, he simply forgot how to be a star player. I don't see it. He was too good for too long to just lose it at this point. And we did see little flashes towards the end there, right before he got injured too, that maybe things were coming back together for him. So I think that they have to just put all their trust into him and try to support him in his off-season training. Maybe he stays in Vancouver for the summer. Maybe he just takes a little break and he's back, or he's working. Maybe he's hanging out with Quinn and the boys, the Hughes boys for the summer, and really getting his head right and focused and coming back next year. And he has to be better. He knows it. The team knows it. It's put up or shut up time, because if it continues down this path, well, then things really get ugly.
If they are bringing Petey back, can it be with Tocchet as head coach, or do you think you need to move on?
I don't think the two necessarily have to split. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think that there's maybe some different voices out there that might be able to maximize his offensive production. But I mean, Talk was around when he was still putting up big points too, right? Like it didn't just happen as soon as Rick showed up. So I do think that they can coexist together. The Rick Tocchet extension, and that's a story for a whole nother day. I think that one's really complicated, and how they're going to utilize that team option that they have, and whether they want to keep him and bring him back as a lame duck. And so, if they extend him long term, I don't think that is a death knell for Pettersson showing up next year.
On the summer ahead for Pettersson, is the relationship between the player and the organization, do you think, at the point where they're willing to work together on the solution? Because there seems to be some hurt feelings, I think, all around here. But are they able to put that aside and work together to get this player? You mentioned sticking around. Absolutely. Or ensuring that he's got the proper direction in Sweden if he's going back, working together. This is the plan. We're both going to work here to make sure that you're where you want to be in September. It sounds like he wants to get to that place, but it's just about how they get to that place for training camp.
I think, and this is just my own personal feelings, no inside information on it, is that absolutely, right? Is that yes, there maybe were some hurt feelings on how this year began, and maybe the pressure points that the organization decided to place on him that didn't work. But they're paying him $11.6, right? He's making so much money. They have made that commitment to him. They moved the player, that was in that battle with him, right? It's not like they chose JT Miller over him, or they kept them both and said, figure it out. At the end of the day, they capitulated and they said, Petey, you're our guy. And so I think at that point, it's like, it should be water under the bridge. It's like, okay, player wants to get back to where he can get to. Team absolutely needs him to get back to that level. Let's find a way, right? And they don't need to babysit him. Hopefully there's going to be that intrinsic motivation for him to get back to the level he needs to. And he has to recognize is that the offseason is where it gets done. It's really difficult to make wholesale changes or improve your game during the season when you're playing so much and practicing so little and traveling so much. And he should know this, right? When he was drafted, the whole knock on him was supreme skill, a little slow feet, and the shot was kind of a muffin. Well, he broke that shot down and just rebuilt it in a summer, and it became just this electric weapon. He knows what an offseason of training can do, so he needs to do that now. And I believe the team will give him every opportunity and all the resources that they can to get him to that point.
From a Swedish center to a Swedish winger, Jonathan Lekkerimäki sent down to the Abbotsford team here for the duration, you would think, of the season. Does it matter? He certainly doesn't need that assignment. He, I think, could have worked through whatever he was slumping with here. But Rick Tocchet wasn't speaking glowingly about him recently in post-game interviews when he did play, and then he's scratched as well. So, do you have any strong feelings about this particular move by the Canucks?
I'm fine with it. I've always been fine with it as at this point is up and down, up and down. It's that you keep this kid rolling hot down in the minors, you bring him up, you give him some chances, you send him back down. And so, Abbotsford is just cooking right now. And so to inject him back into that fun-loving, happy, enthusiastic environment, he's going to be a go-to player for them. Hopefully he's going to find the back of the net a bunch of times here. And that's just only going to boost his confidence. He's such a young kid still, right? Is that you want him really rolling here in a couple seasons. And so I think that playing in the AHL down the stretch here and then into the playoffs is the best place for him. He was going to go down there anyways as soon as the season was done. And so these games at the end of the year for Vancouver, obviously they mean nothing. It would have been fine if he was scoring or he was getting minutes. Yeah, keep him up here. But he's not. So send him down and let him find some joy again.
Have they handled him properly this year, Cam?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with how they've handled him. I think that it's been a successful season for him, in my opinion. I think he's taken strides, but like I said, he's still a young kid, and he's still going to make mistakes at the pro level and at the NHL level. And with a coach like Rick Tocchet, who is very detail-oriented and defensively focused, that's not exactly his game, and so he's going to have to develop his offensive game to be at a point where it's like, well, you maybe missed an assignment here or, you screwed up there, but you're still putting in 25, 30 goals for us, so that's okay.
And as we pointed out, still a rookie for next year. Can put up a Calder if he wants.
Want to hear the latest, as you understand it, on Tom Wielander, who's got, a Thursday game, if I'm not mistaken, the national semifinal for Boston against Penn State, and potentially the final on the weekend. Where do things stand with Tom Wielander?
Yeah, checked in this morning. Was told slow going at the moment. I've been reporting it. I think that at this point, it's almost assured that he will sign his ELC for 25-26, similar to what Jacob Fowler just did, and then he will sign his ATO, his amateur tryout contract. He'll head to Abbotsford. He'll join that playoff run down there. I think that's the best spot for him. I think that, in return for not burning a year of his ELC and coming up and playing NHL minutes, is that hopefully the management will capitulate on some of those bonuses that his side is looking for. And, I'm always a little, obviously everything's a bargaining chip, everything's a negotiation, but when management groups kind of lords bonuses over players, it's always concerning to me, or not concerning, but just questionable. It's you want this player to hit those bonuses. You should be happy to pay him out those bonuses, right? The Schedule A bonuses, 10 goals, 40 points, 25 assists. It's just a maximum of $1 million for an ELC guy. And then those Schedule Bs is up to $2 million, right? And then if he's top 10 in defensive goals or assists or points, or he ends up at the All-Star game, you want those things. You'll be happy to pay that player. So I think it is all just a negotiation. Like I said, it'll get done, and in return for those burned years, I imagine he'll probably max out on his bonuses.
Let's ask you, since we've talked about a couple of them, then the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today: which Canucks prospect is most likely to be in the opening night lineup next season? Lekkerimäki, Räty, Wielander, or feel free to go off the board here, Cam?
Well, I think there's a realistic chance that there's a couple of those names on the big club for opening night next year. But I think it's Atu Räty is the most likely, primarily because of his age, and he will no longer be eligible for waivers. And so you've invested in this player. He was part of the package for Bo. He's done well. He's come up. He's played well in these spurts down the end of the season. I think you find a place for him on that opening night roster because, quite honestly, if you don't, he's getting snatched up on waivers.
And he's in a position of need. He's probably third in pedigree, but in positions of need, like they've got other young right shot defensemen that can play instead of Wielander on opening night. They've got other wingers. They don't necessarily need Lekkerimäki, but they probably will need centermen. And we'll see what the offseason brings. But do you think Atu Räty's got the capability of having the big summer alongside Elias Pettersson? Is he another guy that can have a big summer and show himself as a full-time NHLer next year?
Absolutely. I look at these young guys in their early 20s. It's that like every summer we're hoping to see a big level jump because these are the years, right? Is that you have 2, 3, 4 months to hit the gym, to really work on your explosiveness, right? You're out at the track, you're doing your A sprints, you're doing your B sprints, you're getting out there, you're trying to get that quick twitch fibers going and then add that strength and conditioning as well. And then when you're at that age, they can really take huge level jumps up. So absolutely, I'm looking for him to do that. He's been really good since he's been come up, but a lot of things have gone right for him, right? Since he's been recalled, he wins a ton of draws. He's got that physicality in his game, like averaging almost 3 hits per game since he's been back up. Of course, he's scoring on like 30% of his shots, which isn't going to be translatable and continue on that road. But I do think that he is trending to be a bottom 6 center for this team next year as of right now. And then a big summer of off season will really lock that down for him.
What's most encouraged you about this Abbey heater? 13 in a row.
Man, what's maybe most encouraging is just how they've done it without a lot of their top players, right? Like they are finding scores, right? Ty Mueller fills in as Max Sasson comes up, right? As Räty comes up, as Lekkerimäki comes up. They lost Elias Pettersson, and they didn't even paper him back down, which was a little surprising to me, to be quite honest with you. He's a 21-year-old kid who's only played less than 40 games in the AHL. Obviously, they see him as an AHL player, but it's like, why not send him down for a playoff run and see if they can't go for a Calder Cup? But I think teams and people are starting to take notice of what Manny Malhotra and his coaching staff have done down there, and the Sedins helping out with skill development and player development and all that. It's that, it's really impressive running off 13 in a row. They're one of the top teams in the AHL. And like we said, they're about to get Lekkerimäki, they're about to get Carlson, they're going to get Räty, they're going to get Mancini, they're going to get Sasson, they're going to get Silvas, and then they're going to get Tom Wielander too. So it's like they are going to be loaded up for this playoff run. And then, for Canucks fans that have been suffering this season, take a look down the road to Abbey. There's some good hockey going on down there.
Yeah, you mentioned Ty Mueller. We had a good discussion about him yesterday, Cam. His rookie AHL season, 12 goals, 38 points in 62 games. How would you characterize it? Tell me about Mueller's season.
Yeah, and the cool thing about him is that the vast majority of that production has come in the second half, right? Like he was cold to start his season. I think 4 goals in the first nearly 20 games. And then now he's just found his sea legs, right? And so he hasn't really changed too much since 23, basically. He's kind of this jack of all trades type of guy. He has a lot of skills that spread throughout his arsenal and nothing really jumps out too much. He's pretty quick. But he just brings a little bit of everything to the table, and he's a strong two-way forward, and he has good instincts. So I think that all those things together, plus this really strong second half for a late round pick, looks like he's got NHL upside, which is what you'll need to find in those late rounds. You find one of those every couple of years, you're looking good as an organization. And
has he been playing center exclusively this season, or did they start him on the wing a little bit?
I'm pretty sure he's played both, he's moved around. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One other nice story we've seen is in the junior ranks, Anthony Romani in Barrie in the OHL playoffs, ripping it up, and he had a decent season overall despite the trade mid-year. Speaking of late round finds, we've been monitoring him a little bit because he looked great in his draft year. He looked like a decent jewel late in the draft as well. Is that continuing here for Romani?
8 goals in 5 playoff games.
Leads the OHL in goals, or co-leads it anyways after 5 games there. Romani, so he was a draft +1 last year, drafted as an overager, later birthday. I think he's a July birth date or something like that. But, he ripped off the 110 points or 112 points or whatever it was last year and really kind of set the tone at, like, this is a dominant junior player. had a difficult time to replicate that this year. Obviously, moving from North Bay to Barrie, good for him on moving to a good team. Barrie's a very strong team this year. But only about a point a game guy. But that broken collarbone, right? It cost him nearly 4 months of action. It's hard to recover from that midseason. Really interested to actually see if he goes back for a 20-year-old season. If I'm guessing, I'm probably guessing he goes back, even though he had that monster season. And that Abbey's such a deep club too, is that you could put him in the coast, you could put him in the ECHL, but I think they probably send him back for a 20-year-old season. But yeah, he's cooking in the playoffs. They've got, Kingston now in round 2. Those two teams are like incredibly well matched. Like I'm pretty sure they had the same amount of points this season, same amount of wins. Like they are, right neck and neck. So he won't have nearly as easy a time keeping that heater going. But really, really offensive player who, if things break right, it's a project, it's a development thing that you got to hope for, but maybe you find yourself another depth piece late in a draft. And again, big win if you can.
Excellent stuff, Cam. We thank you for your insight here today and look forward to catching up next week already.
Appreciate it, fellas. Take care.